Hey, Seattle hockey fans, it's another exciting week for the Seattle Kraken. No, we are still not in the playoffs, but we are in the lottery hunt. The NHL Draft Lottery will happen tomorrow. On this episode, I'm going to let you know a few special activations that we have going on in preparation for the lottery. We're going to talk about Jamie Oleksiak, and of course, we're going to talk about the upcoming end of and we're going to talk about the upcoming NHL draft. I keep telling you, we had some pretty good luck, I'd say, or we got a good pick in Matty Beniers. What will we do with the 12 draft picks that we have for 2022? All that and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Kraken.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are the Seattle Kraken.
Hey, what do you say, Seattle hockey fans? Welcome to another episode of Locked On Kraken. I am your host, Erica Lindsay Ayala. As always, we want to thank you for making Locked On Kraken your first listen of the day. Let's start with some signing news. The Seattle Kraken announced that they have signed Finnish defenseman Peetro Seppalo. He's 21 years old, signing an entry-level contract after 4 seasons in Finland's top league. Quote, Peetro is a young defenseman who skates well and has an offensive upside, said Ron Francis. Of course, he's our general manager for the Seattle Kraken. Quote, he's proven himself in the highest ranks in Finland, and we're excited to be adding him to our organization. This is going to be a 2-year contract, an average annual salary of $762,000, give or take. So it's about a $700,000 contract. Seppala has been a regular member of Finland's national teams. At the junior level, he played in 12 World Championship games at the U18 and U20 level, and he's appeared for 43 overall for Team Finland. And of course, he won a gold with the U18 team. Known for having swift hands when carrying the puck on the ice, a strong passer with skating ability, good agility, footwork, and backward skating ability. All some of the things that his junior hockey website has posted. So if you want to read that, the news update from the Seattle Kraken, check the show notes because we'll have it over there. But we're going to spend the rest of this first segment talking about the lottery draft. So let me just remind you, this is from an episode last Monday. Let me just remind you what we're working with when it comes to the lotto draft. So come tomorrow night, we have the third best odds of getting the number 1 pick. And now let me take you over to Puckpedia. So the next set of numbers that we're going to go over are going to come from Puckpedia. This is a website that kind of breaks things down, really great when you're looking at information for drafts, salary cap, etc. So I'm going to pull this up on the screen. We'll talk about it a little bit. But according to Puckpedia, there's a lot that the Seattle Kraken have to work with. We're going to talk about unrestricted free agents, restricted free agents a little bit later. Let's get through the draft. We have plenty of time in the offseason to talk about these things. But again, wanted to bring you to Puckpedia. And we have over 30 picks in the next 3 drafts. I want to say that again. The Seattle Kraken have accumulated over 30 picks in the next 3 NHL entry drafts. So what you're going to see, what you're going to see here though is just for 2022. That's this summer. So you see, obviously we have our own our own original first draft pick. We also have an original pick in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th, and 7th. Of course, we would 7th rounds, as do most teams. Then you'll see that we pick up a few picks, especially in that 2nd round, in trades. So these are some of the trades that we had at the trade deadline, including with the Panthers, with the Predators first. We also have one with the Panthers, but with the Preds, that gives us another 2nd round pick. With the Maple Leafs and with the Panthers, we're getting, in addition to our own 2nd round pick, we're getting theirs. So that gives us 4 picks in the 2nd round for the upcoming draft. Then we'll have our own true pick in the 3rd. And then we're going to have another 3 picks in the 3rd round, or in the 4th round, as you can see, picking up picks from the Washington Capitals. That was the Johansson trade. Calgary Flames. That was Pitlick. And then also our natural pick. So 22 picks. So we've got 12 in 2022 and then another 22 picks in 2023 and 2024. Again, you can see that Puckpedia has all of that listed, and we'll talk about that coming up. But I wanted just to get you a sense of what we're working with now. You can also see the salary cap projected. So right now, the Seattle Kraken are working with about $7.8 million in cap space. So what I think is going to happen is, a few things are going to happen. Number one, what we're going to see is, and let me scroll down a little bit here, we're going to find out what these picks are coming up on Monday and swiftly from that, after the lotto draft, we're going to start to see how these picks are going to flutter in, not just our true original picks, but also the picks that we acquired in the trade. I think after that happens, then we're going to start getting a sense for what Seattle is going to want to do with some of these picks. 12 picks in 2022. Now, you have to see how Seattle is going to play this. They obviously, between this draft and the next 2 drafts, have pieces that they can pull together. They have a decent amount of cap space. They also have 6 total unrestricted free agents, and then another 8, another 8 restricted free agents. Now, the difference with unrestricted and restricted: an unrestricted free agent can talk to teams as soon as free agency opens. A restricted free agent, their rights are restricted. At least, we have first dibs in this case, obviously, since they're on our roster. But that means a player and the team that they're currently on, they have first dibs on getting a contract and a deal done. If an offer isn't made, or if the offer isn't accepted, then those rights, or that player, has the ability to kind of test out the market. So we're going to talk a lot more about that. But coming up on Locked On Kraken, we're going to get into our exit interviews once again. And this episode, we're going to focus on Jamie Oleksiak, because there was a great article up on Jamie and his leadership. So let's hear from Alexiak. That's what's coming up on Locked On Kraken. Now, let me remind you that betonline.net is your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. Stay tuned if you want to know those playoff odds for the first round. We're going to talk about that in the 3rd segment. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs, and of course, the Stanley Cup playoffs that are starting soon. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Locked On Now. That's where experts and your local hosts are giving you breakdowns, recaps, post-game recaps. We're going to have a lot of that going into the playoffs. Breaking news, signings, lotto odds, things like that. So you're not going to want to miss that. It's a really good way to keep up with everything happening, not just in the National Hockey League, and that's where I contribute to Locked On Now, but also for any other leagues that you follow. All right, everyone, let's get back into it. Talk about our boys. we're going to obviously talk about prospects. We're going to do all of that, but let's talk about defenseman Jamie Oleksiak, who Andy Ide calls a Kraken anchor in one of his latest for the Seattle Kraken. Quote, defenseman Jamie Oleksiak was a steady force on the blue line throughout the inaugural season. He reflects on the learning experience of 2021-22 and optimism for Seattle's future. So you'll get a overview from Andy Ide, but let's take you to Oleksiak right now. This is again from the exit interviews, Jamie Oleksiak talking to the Seattle Kraken media corps.
I think just an opportunity to kind of, rest up and then get back to training. And I think it's been a tough year, and we just want to make sure that we kind of learn from it and hit the ground running next year. So I think it's just a matter of opportunity here. Yeah, it's tough to really sum up, but it's definitely been a whirlwind year. I think it's obviously tough whenever you're not making playoffs, but we got a hungry group. We got guys that want to be there. So the one thing I will say is I'm just very appreciative and impressed with the fans. I think they showed up every single night, and I think regardless of what the score was or what was happening at the time, they support us full out, and I think they deserve playoff hockey, and we're going to try and bring it to them hopefully soon.
Will that help going into next season?
I think it's going to be huge. I mean, you're not going to be spending time in training camp, going through systems and kind of feeling out who does what and things like that and tendencies, and I think you're just going to have that all out of the way already, so we can just come into training camp, hit the ground running, and kind of go from there, just build off the momentum. So it's just it's going to be good for us.
Jamie Oleksiak, 82 game season, first one with the Seattle Kraken, says it's been a tough year, as you heard from a lot of the other guys, but came through the Dallas Stars in the expansion draft and talked obviously about throughout the season trying to get better, throughout the season trying to focus on things that the Seattle Kraken knew they could do. And he said that, it took some time, but as the year progressed, he personally felt more comfortable with what he was doing and playing that defensive role. So that's good. We'll see what kind of happens with Alexiak. Now, he is not one of those players that's either an unrestricted free agent or a restricted free agent. So as far as we know, we'll continue to have him. He's talking about training camp also in the article, obviously, with Andy Ide, and in his exit interview. It's something that is honestly difficult to do in training camp, going through systems. And we kind of heard that from Dave Haxtell when I was in Seattle covering that training camp and preseason, that you're not so much getting into the systems. You first want to get a feel for the guys, give them things a little bit at a time and see how they're reacting. And then you start working on the systems. The Seattle Kraken had some games early on in the season that were impacted by other teams and their COVID protocol. So you saw that they spent some time focusing on systems. Unfortunately, all of that practice, we talked about it on the show, didn't always yield the immediate results that they wanted, but perhaps those chunks of time that the Seattle Kraken had preseason, training camp, and then again in that kind of early kind of break that they had because of COVID, maybe those things paid dividends down the road. But definitely check out that article from Andy Ide. We heard from Jamie Oleksiak. The anchors, if you will, of this team are going to be important as the Seattle Kraken. Again, the theme we're going to talk about in these exit interviews is that the Seattle Kraken are focused on character. And so we've already heard from Larson, we've heard from Alexiak, we've heard from Vince Dunn. These are some of the guys, especially Larson, Alexiak, Schwartz. We heard from, we know he's coming back from injury, Brandon Tanev. They're going to have to drive the character building. And now that there's one season under the belt, I want to see these leaders, these anchors for the Seattle Kraken take a lot more initiative, because what we saw from the Seattle Kraken, if you look at the full picture, you saw blips of time. And I think the most consistent that we saw from the Seattle Kraken was post-trade deadline. Now, you're going to hear in these exit interviews the guys saying that the trade deadline it's grueling, it's stressful. Maybe there was a little bit more of that, or it was more acute because it was a brand new expansion team and we weren't playing well. So I'm willing to offer that up as part of the recipe, shall we say, to some of the inconsistency. That being said, the trade deadline happens every year. So some of these guys are just going to have to get used to it. That's what happens every single season in the National Hockey League and in, most leagues. So again, it was a feeling it out. This is now the baseline. This first season is the baseline. And if, again, we pull away from the full season and we take a look at the blips, then I like how the Seattle Kraken finished. Definitely, even some of those losses, they were the more consistent version, or the most consistent version of the Seattle Kraken team that we saw post trade deadline. So coming up next, I want to get you ready for what you can expect from the Locked On NHL team. I will be involved in some of the things. We're going to have a show later in the day, and that's intentional. So look out for a live show that we're going to do immediately following the draft. So I'm going to get into all of that and ways that you'll see me incorporated. And that's what's coming up next on Locked On Kraken. I talk about Built Bars. I talk about starting my day off right, making sure that, I'm getting the nutrition that I need. And the Built Bar is a great way to do that because it helps me with getting my calories right while focusing on the right type of calories, not empty calories. I'm such a snacker. I have a sweet tooth. And so sometimes I think I'm eating because, I know my body needs to eat, but I don't realize that I'm not getting enough calories. I'm not getting enough good kind of nutrients in my body. And that's not the case when you have 130 calories, 17 grams of protein in every Built Bar, which is covered in chocolate. So it still helps those cravings and urges that I have for something sweet. But also only 4 grams of sugar, only 4 net carbs. You've got your puffs, which are basically like this marshmallowy protein-infused goodness that comes with flavors like banana cream pie or the churro flavor. Very, very tasty. Then, of course, you've got your go-tos, the double chocolate, the coconut almond, the cherry barcia. And then there's a few new ones that I want to make sure you know about. I mentioned banana cream pie already, but we've got, of course, raspberry double chocolate. Those are some of the go-tos. I mean, the flavors are always amazing. So we want to make sure that you are getting a discount when you put your nutrition first. So head over to built.com and use promo code LOCKED15. That will get you 15% off your next order. That's 15% off at built.com on your next order of Built Bar when you use promo code LOCKED15. As I always say, happy snacking. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs and, of course, the Stanley Cup playoffs that are starting soon. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, party people, as always, thank you for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily routine. And so the routine is going to shift a little bit tomorrow. We are still going to have our show. It's just going to be a live show. We're going to do another live show. It's going to be at 4 p.m. from 4 to 4:30 Pacific time. That is 7 to 7:30 Eastern time. And you'll see everything later today. All of the promos will drop for that. But this is going to be our daily show. It's going to be later in the day. And we're having it later in the day so that we can react to the lottery for the NHL draft. So we are going to have that immediate reaction. Some of the stuff that we've gone over in this episode, it'll start to fall into place. So looking at Puckpedia, we're looking at UFAs, looking at RFAs, looking at the roster, looking at what the needs are for the Seattle Kraken. That's what we're going to spend time tomorrow talking about. But then I'm also going to join the roundtable that will be hosted by Locked On NHL. That's going to be at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So that's 5 p.m. Pacific. Laura Saba, who is the host of Locked on Canadiens, is going to host a roundtable. I will participate in that. Again, the Seattle Kraken are massive players in this upcoming draft, not only because of our odds to get that number 1 pick, to get a top pick, but also because we carry the cards for so many picks in the next, count them, next 3 drafts. So yeah, we're coming to the table. We're definitely going to be players when it comes to free agency, when it comes to trades in the offseason. So we're going to talk about that on tomorrow's live show. Again, it's going to be live from 4 to 4:30 Pacific time. Wherever you usually catch Locked on Kraken, it will be uploaded later. So if you listen to the show audio only, that will be available a little bit after 7:30. Well, I should say, hopefully I can get that to you just after 7:30, before the 7:30 Eastern time, before I go live on the Locked on NHL show as part of the roundtable. So we'll try to sneak that in for you. But if not, the live show will be available immediately on YouTube. Again, there will be a promo for that on YouTube coming up later today. So if you usually watch the show on YouTube, go ahead and set a reminder so you don't forget about the live show. You can interact with me. I will be looking through the comments. If you have any questions ahead of that, either for the roundtable where I'm talking with other hosts or for our live special for the draft, let's send them in. You know how to reach me. If you're watching on YouTube, there's my placard right there. Your host, Erica Lindsay Ayala. You can find me personally on social media at elindsay08. That's ELINDSAY08. You can also find the show at Locked on Kraken. So if you want to engage either during the live show, before the live show, during the roundtable, that's how you're going to do it. So we're really excited. Again, there's going to be so many things that the Seattle Kraken can really be players. We're going to be, I think, aggressive. We're going to be one of the top players in the next handful of seasons. And that gives us options that arguably we didn't have at the expansion draft and that we didn't have for the trade deadline. I'm super excited. I hope you're pumped up for everything that we have for you, Locked on NHL style. Before we leave, let me get you to the numbers, or excuse me, to the scores that we saw in the last handful of days. We have got some serious games going on. So now we gave you the rundown on Friday through Thursday, May 5th. So on Friday, here's what we had go down. The Hurricanes took a 2-1 lead, or excuse me, the Bruins got one on the board. Excuse me, the Carolina Hurricanes were up 2-0. Then the Bruins got a 4-2 victory Friday, May 6th. The Maple Leafs, they got a 5-2 win over the Lightning. They now lead that series 2-1. You've got the Wild and the Blues. The Wild took a 5-1 win. Really needed that win. And you see that they were able to get that against the Blues, getting a really good game against the Blues. Let me actually pull this up. I realized I didn't have the scores up for you. So again, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm sorry for those listening. Let me just scroll. Friday, May 6th, 4-2 win for the Bruins. A 4-2 win for the Bruins. Then a 5-2 win over the Lightning. The Maple Leafs now have a 2-1 series lead. The Minnesota Wild with a 2-1 lead in their series. They got 5-1 win on Friday. Ooh, and the Oilers, they really mopped up the Kings 8-2. Now the Oilers have a 2-1 lead over Los Kings. Those were Friday's scores. Let me get you to Saturday. On Saturday, the Panthers dropped their contest 6-1 to the Capitals. So now they trail the Panthers, that is 1-2 in the series. Caps have the 2-1 lead. Put another way, the Avalanche keep pounding, and they have a 7-3 victory over the Predators, and they have the series right now. Now, I don't have no idea why these series go so long. I feel like we probably know how this one is going to end. No disrespect, Locked on Predators, but do we really need another handful of games? I don't know. Any Rangers and Penguins. The Penguins get a 7-4 win They lead the series 2-1 after Saturday's games, and then the Stars get a win over the Flames. Dallas leads that series 2-1, excuse me. So then on Sunday, here we go. Things got pretty interesting as the Boston Bruins definitely had something to say. There was I saw some of the Tony D'Angelo stuff going on there. So I don't know. I'm just going to leave that there with Brad Marchand, those guys. So, all right, that series is tied. The Wild, oh man, they dropped a game 5-2 to the Blues on Sunday yesterday. So now that series is tied. The Maple Leafs and Lightning, that series is also tied as the Lightning get a 7-3 victory. The Oilers and Kings, that series is tied. It was a crazy Sunday. It was my birthday, so I'm going to tell you I was not locked in on these scores until earlier today, but that's all good. Series tied there as the Kings, they get a 4-0 shutout over the Oilers. I'm still pulling for those Kings. Anyway, that's your roundup. We are going to start focusing on what the Charlotte Checkers and our AHL team is doing. They've got their playoff matchup, division semifinals coming up. So lots and lots of hockey. I know we're not in the Stanley Cup playoffs. One day we will be, and we will win a Stanley Cup before the Las Vegas Golden Knights. That was my first ever bold prediction as part of Locked On Kraken. So far, I'm okay. I'm in a good position. That can still be a possibility, but it all is, in my opinion, predicated on what the Seattle Kraken do in their first 3 seasons. We've talked about this early on in the show. I'm going to repeat it just so you know. Also, we can pull receipts and see how accurate my bold predictions are. That being said, things need to get done this season. There's not really a lot of time to putz around. The Seattle Kraken did some of that. And I don't mean putzing around, but they did some of the feeling out process in that first season. I think that's why they essentially rode that wave. But now it's time to put it in action. I think we'll see a much shorter leash. Ron Francis isn't playing around. We already saw him make a move at the coaching position for goaltending. So much more to come. Before we wrap up, just remember to be kind to one another. We had Mother's Day. It's, all kinds of holidays coming up over the summer, birthdays, obviously. I think it's always nice to send a personal note if you can. If you have someone's phone number, even better, if you have their address, their email address, their mailing address, send a nice, heartfelt, well thought out message. Doesn't necessarily have to be the biggest gift, but you'd be surprised. We're, connecting through all this technology, and sometimes we forget to do the little things, to do the small things. So if you have a minute, sit down, write out a card, and find your favorite stamps at the post office. I love stamps. I really, really do love stamps. So if you're looking for a pen pal, look no further than me. I'm always happy. I love sending out just greetings cards. They're one of my favorite things to shop for, and I keep a bunch always for a rainy day, for a special occasion. So that's my, wellness tip for you. As always, thank you for listening to Locked On Kraken. Now it's time for you to listen to the Locked On NHL show or one of our fantasy hockey show. So many things coming up as the hockey postseason progresses. Hold fast, stay true. Don't forget to be you, and I'll catch you on tomorrow's live show. Remember, 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time, live on Locked On Kraken for the Draft Lotto. I'll see you tomorrow, folks.